Welcome to Storied Branches, where history, heritage, and storytelling come to life. We dive into the moments, memories, and voices that shape our past and connect us to the present. Stay curious, stay connected, and let's journey through the stories that make us who we are. For more information, visit storiedbranches.com.
Growing up with my father, Henry, meant growing up with stories. He wasn't just a storyteller. He was the kind of person who could turn his past into something so vivid and full of humor that you felt like you had lived it with him. But beneath the laughter, there were also glimpses of the hardships that shaped him. Dad didn't talk much about his childhood, and when he did, it wasn't filled with the warmth of a happy home. His father was not kind to him. I remember him telling me once with a kind of blunt honesty that when his father died, he wasn't sad. That always stuck with me because it told me more about his younger years than any long story ever could. He was born in Virginia, Minnesota, but his early life was anything but settled. His parents, originally from Finland, traveled back and forth. At some point, they returned to Finland with the children, and years later, they had to navigate through minefields in the harbors when they came back to the U.S. It's hard to imagine what that must have been like, but Dad told it like just another adventure, like something out of a movie. Despite everything, Dad was full of life. In high school, he was an excellent swimmer, so good that he and his team had the chance to go to the Olympics, or at least the Olympic trials. But it was the Great Depression, and they couldn't come up with the money to go. That didn't stop him from making the best of things. One of my favorite stories was about his very short college career. He had been a swimmer but decided to try out for football. As he told it, he went to his first practice, got absolutely wrecked, crawled home, and never went back. That was it. His entire college experience wrapped up in a single day. He would always laugh when he told that story, shaking his head at his own choices. Then there was the time in high school when one of his teachers made a comment. "If you show me a good pool player, I'll show you a wasted youth." The entire class immediately turned to look at my dad. He would crack up every time he told that story because, well, he was a great pool player. And despite what the teacher thought, it didn't ruin him. He even taught me how to play, showing me all the trick shots and angles. Dad eventually joined the military, but he wasn't in combat. He was stationed in Hawaii, where he managed to turn even routine moments into something unforgettable. One of his favorite stories, one that had him laughing until he had tears, was about the time he went horseback riding. Something spooked the horse, and before he knew it, he was clinging on for dear life. The saddle slipped, the cinch was loose, and suddenly Dad found himself hanging upside down, hooves flying past his head. The horse was on a mission, bolting straight for the barn. As he was hurtling through the streets, flailing and yelling, a woman who had been hanging laundry outside saw him coming. Without hesitation, she grabbed her bucket and ran for cover. Dad always made a point to describe the sheer panic on her face and the way she dove out of the way as if dodging a runaway train. Eventually, the horse made it back to the barn, stopping so suddenly that Dad was finally thrown clear. It was a ridiculous, terrifying, and absolutely hilarious moment. Classic Henry. His time in the military wasn't all laughs. He was in a terrible accident while riding a bus, resting his elbow out the window to enjoy the breeze when a truck backed out and caught his arm. It left him with serious injuries, leading to over 20 surgeries. But even through the pain, he kept his humor. He had a tattoo on his right arm, a red number 13 with a black cat. Somehow, that was the only part of his arm that wasn't mangled. He would joke about how, out of all the things to survive, it had to be that unlucky tattoo. The treatment for his injuries wasn't pleasant either. Penicillin was going to the war effort, so instead, they used live maggots to eat away the gangrene in his wounds. It sounds horrific. But Dad, in typical Henry fashion, looked at it with curiosity rather than fear. He always said, "Pain, hell, it's nothing. As soon as it's over, it's gone." That mentality shaped me. I became fascinated by the idea of pain, how bad it could get before it passed. Through everything, he never lost his ability to laugh. He met my mother in the hospital. She was his nurse. Before he even spoke to her, he pointed her out to a buddy and said, "That girl over there, I'm going to date her." And he did. When they were together, he kept up his playful spirit. He'd drive her past a rundown, rickety old shed and joke, "There it is, our dream house." He had a way of finding humor in everything, even the toughest times. Before all that, though, before the military, before my mother, he had been a drifter. During the Great Depression, he hopped freight trains, staying in hobo villages, making his way through hard times the best he could. I wish I remembered more of those stories, but I know they were full of the same wit and resilience that defined his entire life. My dad was many things: tough, resourceful, endlessly stubborn, but above all, he was funny. No matter what life threw at him, he found a way to laugh. And that's the greatest thing he passed down to me: the ability to face life with humor, to find joy even in the most unexpected places. That's Henry. That's my dad.